Good morning, CLC. I invite you right now with me to take a nice, deep breath, breathing in cool, calming air. And as you release that breath, release any stress or tension you may be holding in your body. Take another nice, deep breath, allowing yourself to relax in this moment, allowing your body to be still, and allowing your mind to be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems, while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of this infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. In visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass, in seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I allow myself to enjoy the happiness and, I'm so sorry, I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. In visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in the room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude in saying, I'm grateful for the good in your life. So grateful for the good in all your lives. Well, good morning again, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this service. We're so grateful to have you here.
And it's unprofessional, I was told years ago, to thank your team at an event like a memorial service. You know, yay us. So I'm going to thank them now. People have been working for months on this afternoon and working in grief. Unlike an ordination that's all upward and onward and joyful and happy, this has been intense. And I cannot thank Jeffrey Oshman enough, and Mary Radspinner, and Melody Berryman, and Melody Tipton, and the other singers, and Jeffrey Powell. Melody Tipton has done a million things in a million rooms. Jeffrey Powell, who's back there starting to stage the luncheon for this afternoon, and Danielle and Lisa, the two pillars of the temple, and David Dewhurst, who's like the arch, you know? Because these folks, as they always do, and every one of them, a student of Marsha's, every one of them a friend of Marsha's, have gone to the wall to make this special for the family and for you. And I can't thank them enough. And the only regret that I have is that it's always the same names. It's always the same group of people that get thanked for these things. So I encourage those of you who are new to the center or new to being involved in service at the center to add your name to that list for the next time that we put on some sort of a special event, like saying goodbye to a friend of so long. So that's my polemic for the morning. Now that's not what you came for. You came for inspiration and uplift, and I've got that. I wore my inspiration and uplift outfit today. The weather person said wear light colors because it's hot out, and man, it is. It feels like Marsha Lehman loved this weather. Not at all. And they say anybody with any sense gets out of Dodge at this time of year, but not us. So we'll pat ourselves on the back for that one too. We're here. So it's Father's Day, it's Juneteenth, we've got the summer solstice, which is kind of laughable because it's been summer for weeks, but we've got the summer solstice coming up. I want to thank Danielle, who represented the center at the Tamina Juneteenth celebration yesterday. Tamina is, if you do not know about it, we'll tell you some other time, but it's a freedman's town up across the freeway from Shenandoah. And you met Marty Korn? Did you meet Marty Korn?
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
We spoke
you met Marty Cohen.
briefly.
She brought me this
Yeah.
beautiful book, The Ground on Which I Stand, on which we stand, which is the story of the ancestors going back to the 1880s of the Tamina Freedmanstown community. And we celebrate Juneteenth. I, as a white person, am looking through the window at the Juneteenth experience, but what I do as a minister is I take celebrations in the world and I look for a metaphysical interpretation of them. Now, everybody's welcome at a celebration of Juneteenth. And if you're looking for what it can mean to you, if you're not the descendant of enslaved people, is that people are only as free as they know they are. Because the story of Juneteenth is that, you know, 2 years plus after the Emancipation Proclamation, the word finally came to Galveston, to the slaves of Texas who were then freed. And immediately they were told that their relationship was no longer slave to master, but employee to employer. Of course, the dynamics didn't change much. And it wasn't like everybody suddenly got paid and all. But the takeaway for you and me and everyone is that if you have freedom but you don't know it, then you're not free. You're standing inside a prison of your own dynamic, of your own history, of your own expectation. You haven't burst out of that. So what the role of science of mind is in the world is to tell people you're mentally free, you're emotionally free. You can believe anything you want. You can stand in your own truth. There is no absolute explanation, certainly no final explanation for anything. By the way, I smile funny because I broke a crown a couple of weeks ago. So if anybody's peering at me, you get self-conscious about that kind of thing, people peering at me. I haven't had a chance to go get it fixed. Which reminds me of the old joke. The dentist said, I should have a crown. And I said, yes. Yes, I should. You're only as free as you know you are. And the truth of your own being is absolute freedom. And the freedom to interpret things how you wish them to be in your life. I look forward to a time when all of us, as Spirit's expressions, are so in love with each other, we run toward each other about our distinctions and our differences and the apparent boundaries that separate us, that Melody sang of, and we're so interested in each other's stories that we could write a book like Marty Cohen did about the ancestry of Tamina. That we're so interested in this, not just in writing the book, but in reading other people's story. You might look at that and say, well, that's not my story. You know, I'm not from here. I'm not from here. But here's a really big planet. And we're all from here. We're all from somewhere in here. And we have something to learn from it and a way to grow from it, which brings me to Father's Day. How do you interpret Father's Day? See, one of the things we do with things like Juneteenth or Father's Day or Christmas or Passover or anything else, we say, here's the meaning of it. I have a whole bunch of articles. Here's the meaning of this. It started on such and such a date, and here's what it means, and here's the food you eat, and here are the decorations you put up, and here are the prayers you say, and so on. And so we think it's a final closed thing, and what we have to do is just kind of get in line and read from the Bible and sing from the hymnal, and everything will be fine. But it's our emotional attachment to things that's our final takeaway. So what does this weekend mean to you? That's what it means. It's what it means to you. I was telling a couple of people recently, you try different things, and Marsha, of course, comes to mind because I'll talk about this afternoon. You try things, and sometimes they work, and sometimes they don't, you know, in the ministry. And one of the things about Marsha, she never apologized for anything. Not a thing. Tried it, didn't work. Well, try something else. So some years ago, I don't know if it was before she came here. It could have been because it was kind of in the early days of the center. I had this bright idea for Father's Day. We were meeting upstairs at the other building, which we did from 1987 till 2001. And I put up a whiteboard, a marking, not a projection screen, but a whiteboard with markers up on the stage. I got up, gave a talk, we sang a couple of songs. I said, now, why don't you come up and write a message to your father on the whiteboard? People lined up. looked around, love you, Daddy, that kind of thing, and a few obscenities, which were very distressing to the people who'd written, I love you, Daddy. And all of a sudden, what had been a sweet, calm Sunday morning got tense. Tension. And I, as facilitator, genius that I am, said, we're not doing this next year. But it was good for those people who wrote the obscenities. I don't know what kind of pain they were. Well, actually, I do in a couple of cases, but from their stories, shared privately, but what kind of pain they were in, they had to do that. But what freedom, what safety they felt in a community where they could get up and share that and say, this day sucks for me because of how I was brought up, because who he was to me. If we're not about that, if we're not about that degree of realness, then we're just kidding ourselves. So how do you feel today? You know, I had a father who left when I was 2, and I met him when I was 30. There's all kinds of, and then we had an interesting relationship from the time when I was 30 until the time when he made his transition in 2000, which I'd have to do the math of how long that was, but I can't do it and give a talk both. But anyhow, interesting stuff. You have had interesting relationships in your life that don't conform to the expectation, to the greeting card model. And you know what? That's beautiful. Now, expand that and realize it's not just about Father's Day or Juneteenth or a holiday, a special occasion. It's also, how do you feel about Mondays? How do you feel about work days and rest days? How do you feel about birthdays? How do you feel about the passage of time? Summer. Do you like summer? And so on. What do you associate with it? A couple of weeks ago, I talked about the songs of summer. Because Brian, maybe it was last week, Brian was here, we did a John Denver or something, you know, from back in the day. And it's like all of a sudden your eyes get kind of this faraway look, you know, and you're back in the summer of whenever. And some of that is joyful and uplifting, and some of it's very poignant. So what's the truth of that song? Then you find out, to complicate matters further, the person who wrote that song wrote it about something entirely different from everything you've associated with it. I was reading an article lately. It says some of the best contemporary wedding songs are actually breakup songs. Okay? But they're nice and sweet, and the lyrics are slurred a little, and you don't really get that, and so, you know, that's your takeaway. My point in all of this is that this is our job. This is why we're here. This is why we incorporate, literally, come into flesh in this world. Incarnate also means the same thing. This is why we come here, is to interpret reality our own way, to thread our own path through all of it, and decide how it feels, decide what to do. It's why I brought up a couple of weeks ago combining spiritual practices. People will jump up and down about, you can't do that, it's wrong. It's wrong, you have to follow one path because it's the path to salvation, it's the path. No, you take what you want and you leave the rest. You draw from the scriptures of the world, you draw from the teachings of others, but mostly you listen to your own counsel. You know, one of the quotes I love, I quote constantly, Emerson. This came up in another conversation recently. He said, the faith that relies on authority is not faith. The faith that relies on authority is not faith. If it's not faith, what is it? Obedience. Conformity. Conformity to a certain set of expectations. If you were meant to conform to what has come before, you would not be here. And by here, I mean anywhere. You would not have individualization. You would not have personality if you were just meant to be a replication of somebody who came before, and they of somebody who came before them, and so on. None of this would be necessary. We're working on almost 8 billion people on this planet at this time. Every one of them a unique individual. Every one of them. And not only that, but those 8 billion people don't stay put. They're not just hatched, you know, and then they have a full-blown personality and it stays on. You changed, didn't you? Some of you I've known for years and I've watched you change, but you changed a whole lot before I got to you. I mean, you changed from childhood to adulthood and, you know, all the different stages you went through. And furthermore, within each of those, you change by the moment. You have a new awareness of yourself. Every time you meditate, this is why we're so big on spiritual practice, you know? Every time you meditate, every time you pray, you come out different than you were before. You might not have the new car, the new house, the new love interest, but you're different than you were before. You've seen more of yourself. You've learned more of yourself. So this is why we engage in this. And the title of today's talk is actually All Paths Converge. And it means, on one level, what you think it means, which is that whatever path you pick spiritually leads to the top of the same mountain. But it also means that all of the different kind of tendrils of life, all the little things left undone, goals as yet unrealized, hopes, dreams, wishes, wills, longings, etc., that are out there, all form together in one central core kind of thing, like those deals they have, which we could use some of here, where you take a bunch of wires and you put them in a sleeve, you know, right? Okay, off like the back of your computer. So all of these different parts of you are contained within that one sleeve. All of these different aspects of self, the things left undone, the trouble that you have, the way that you have of getting out of that trouble, all converge in one way. There are mysterious, miraculous things afoot that happen. Stories have abounded here this weekend, just so far through the first half of this weekend, about amazing things concerning Marsha Lehman and her influence in our lives since she left this world 6.5 months ago. Stories that I was told yesterday and also by Denny on the phone in conversations over the past months. My computer did some strange things working on the program that you're going to be handed today. Things that I've never seen it do before. I'm no computer genius, but it has not done this stuff before, and I've been using it for years. And all I can think of is that her? Or is that me thinking about her? Is that her consciousness or my consciousness? Well, now consciousness overlaps out there, doesn't it? It's like intersecting circles, but there are always bits of information coming to us to inform us more of who we are if we'll pay attention. If we'll pay attention. So, you've heard the saying that it'll all be all right in the end. And if it's not all right, it's not the end. Right? You've heard that. Okay. Go with that. Go with that. Everything will make sense at some point. If it doesn't make sense yet, then we have not yet reached that point. But that point is there on the horizon. We will all know. We will all know why things are the way they are. We will know our own motivations. We will know our own intentions, our own ambitions. We will know our own needs and wants and lacks. We will know what we're compensating for. We will know why we're in control or try to be in control, why we're egotistical sometimes, why we're needy and seek approval and all the rest of it. We will know what it is that moves us. And we will know it whether or not we feel we're ready to. So the science of mind is about telling us we're ready to. Objects in your mirror may be larger than they appear. But we're ready to. We're ready to have this experience of utter self-knowledge. Does it scare us? Sure it does. Because it's unfamiliar ground. And we're still ready to have it. And I'm getting a little into my comments for this afternoon, but I'm going to say this too. One of the thousands of aspects of Marsha's, Reverend Marsha's work in the world was she made you risk. She made you risk. It was never status quo. Never status. You have a dream, you have a vision. How are you coming with that? How are you coming with that? Okay? Well, she represented in that way your own subconscious mind. She was basically amplifying the way, used to be an amplifier there. She's basically amplifying your own subconscious mind for you. Because it would come up, nah, not today, no, I'm not ready, I'm not ready, I'm not ready. It was the preamp, but she was the Marshall stack, man. She would say, you're ready to be fully who you are. And I'm going to stand here until you do become fully who you are. And I won't exactly hound you, but I will pursue the question. Okay? And this made people sometimes uncomfortable. Made me uncomfortable sometimes. This intensity of wanting to amplify my own being. Made me uncomfortable until I realized this is exactly what I'd asked the universe for. And it gave it to me in the person of her. And others. Because I don't want you to think that the last ship has sailed as far as this goes. The world will persist not only in exhibiting before you what you persist in affirming the world is, but the world will persist in urging you into the fullness of your own majesty. You know? It can't help it. That's its nature. It's like a current that runs, like a tide that goes. It's just what it does. So on this day, and as we move into summer, on this celebration of freedom and the recognition of freedom, on this celebration of fatherly energy, which by the way is not gender specific, and you can be fathered, just like I said back on Mother's Day, you can be fathered and mothered by anybody, including, they don't even have to be human. I mean, birds and animals and things present this energy to you of telling you you're all right. The arm around the shoulder kind of support that you can get if you're open to it. The only limitations on it are the limitations that we place on it and say, no, I can't get it from this person, not that person, not that. They're not perfect. And then we go through the book of perfect fathers, right? The very tiny book of perfect fathers. Little bitty who showed up, size of a Tic Tac, who showed up all the time and did everything great, were always there, and gave unconditional love, but at the same time, good stern advice, and, all of this. It's like, we can leave all of the perfectionistic stuff aside. We can leave all of the externals out of the picture for a moment. Go right to the source of our own being. Say, which is the theme for this month, say, show me who I am. Show me who I am. Show me who I am. And give me the strength to treat, to pray, to know that everyone else knows who they are. Especially the people I don't like and the people who scare me. That everybody knows who they are. And watch what happens. It is most amazing. So I want to close with a little treatment here, but I want to again, if you've got a few hours to spend with us this afternoon, I promise you it will be life-changing. And not like you need the pot sweetened, but there will be food. And please leave the food alone until the proper time. There's bottled water out there, but leave the food alone for the family to get to first after the service and all. And we'll see you here at 2 o'clock. And now let's join in knowing together. There is one life, one power, one presence, just one. Call it by any name you want. Marsha called it Goddess very often. So we'll go with that because it kind of messes with Father's Day. So we'll go with that. We'll say the Goddess, infinite Goddess. Spirit of light, Spirit of truth, Spirit of being. I affirm and know the presence of this one within myself. I know that it's mighty to heal whatever seems to ail me, especially my sense of separation from it, my sense of aloneness and alienation. But the truth of my being is that I stand right at the center of the universe, as does every other sentient being. And my interpretation of my own reality is valid, truthful for me, and open to change at a moment's notice. And so no longer do I just fasten my feelings onto conditions and leave them there. But my emotional life is a living, organic thing. And I'm strengthened and empowered by whatever comes my way, whether it's a reward of some kind or a challenge to face. As I step into this level of peacefulness and acclamation in the space that I occupy in the world, I become a more compassionate and loving and caring individual toward others, because I am no longer obsessed with getting my own needs met first. And so I'm able to reach out and lift up and heal and bless and sanctify. And sometimes to be the one who stands there and says, now show me what you're talking about. Show me your best. Because you have what it takes, because you are what it takes. And I move to a place of mentorship, leadership, as I have been called to be by Spirit, by virtue of being in this world at this time. All of this here described occurs easily, naturally, wonderfully. It all flows together. And for this knowing, I am so grateful. And I release this word now into that one life that I do think of as my Mother, Father, God, and let it be so, and so it is.
As our ushers make their way to the back, I just want to ask, is there anyone here new for the first time? This is your first time here. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for being here. If this is your first time online, please let us know that. You can message us in chat, or you can send us a private message through Facebook Messenger. And I want to thank each and every one of you for everything that you give to this center, all of your love, all of your support, all of your financial support. If it were not for you, we could not be here doing what we do. And so with that, I invite you to say with me, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is.
All right, we're going to see if my voice works. Oh, yep, looks like I got one. I did not turn into David last week. I just simply didn't have a voice for a week. Yeah, it is what it is, right? So I would have been one of the ones that would have written in profanity. Would have. I'm in a different place now, and so here's what I'm going to tell you is it's not too late. Whatever your relationship is with your father, whatever your relationship is with any of the fathering energies in your life, it's not too late. Even if they are no longer on this planet, it's not too late. He did say consciousness overlaps, right? So you always have access. My father is still on this planet. We've had a couple of heart-to-hearts. And the cool thing is that the older I get, the easier it is. So this is what I'm going to know for you. Whatever that energy is, I'm going to know that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. And each and every one of us are a part of that love. And that love includes all of that energy. It includes that fathering energy, just as it includes that mothering energy. and that sibling energy, and that grandparenting and great-grandparenting energy, along with the child energy and the grandchild energy, and as far into the grands as you want to get. It's all included in that one love. And I know that each and every one of us have access to exactly the kind of energy that we need at any one point. As we open up our hearts and accept that energy in, it flows through us and flows out into the world in amazing and infinite variety of ways. And so as we access the parts of us and the parts of spirit and the parts of each other and the parts of our fathers, we recognize the amazing underlay, the underpinning, that which is spirit, which is the ultimate explanation, the absolute. Because there is an absolute father just as there is an absolute mother, and you have access to it, and I know this, and you know this. And so I invite you in to the absolute fathering energy today. And once you have opened that door, you can open it again. And I know this with all of the gratitude in my being. And I relax, and I release, and I know that it is so, and so it is.
Say it with me now, something wonderful is happening through me. I feel it in my body. I feel it in my mind. I feel it in everything I am. I choose it. I trust it. I use it. And I love it. So it is.